Today we're going to talk about occlusion. So occlusion is basically how our mouth, all the teeth in our mouth come together when the mouth closes, how they occlude together, and how they all work together when chewing food, going through the process of mastication, and just whenever any movements of the mouth that the teeth are aligned properly, that they do not catch or interfere with each other or cause damage to each other. So occlusion is really important because if the teeth are in malocclusion, they're not aligned right, that can be causing a lot of damage to the teeth. This can lead to broken, cracked teeth, can cause problems with your ligaments and the holding your teeth, your PDL, and it can also cause problems with your joint, and cause pain and just misalignment in your TMJ. So occlusion is very important, and there's a lot of different aspects to it, so it can make it kind of complicated or seem like a lot. So it's going to take a lot of practice and work to get really comfortable with occlusion, but we're going to start off simple here, and hopefully this will help you guys see occlusion a little bit better and give you a good way to kind of study for it. So as you can hopefully see, this is kind of a rough drawing of your mouth. This is called, I think, a picket fence kind of diagram for your teeth. Here's your mandibular teeth, your maxillary teeth. The first thing you might notice is why kind of the central mandibular incisor and the maxillary central incisor aren't aligned evenly, that they're kind of offset from each other. And that's because our maxillary teeth, our maxillary central incisor is so much bigger than our mandibular central incisor. So it overlaps it a little bit, and that kind of creates this off-kilterness, this offsetness of the maxillary teeth. And so that's important in knowing with occlusion, the whatever tooth you're looking at in the maxillary teeth is going to occlude with the same named tooth, but it's going to hit the distal part of that tooth. So over here with your canine and all your other teeth that have a marginal ridge, that have more than one cusp, sorry, not canine, but all your teeth that have a marginal ridge, it's going to contact the distal portion of that marginal ridge. So that's something to be aware of, as well as and vice versa, the mandibular teeth are going to contact the mesial marginal ridge of the same named tooth. Another thing to know is that every tooth in the mouth comes into contact with two teeth on the opposite arch, or it contacts them during occlusion. So here we have our canine that's going to contact the distal portion of the same name canine and the first premolar and contact the mesial portion of that. So as you can probably see, that every tooth will do that except for our central incisor, because it's too little. It doesn't contact any other teeth besides the maxillary central. So that's the first exception, and then the last exception is our third molar, just because it's the last tooth, and that nothing else really, there's nothing else for it to occlude with. Obviously, if the third molars have been taken out, then it would be your second molar, but pay attention. So the central incisor and third maxillary molar, you're going to see a lot on test questions and on boards. That's something that's commonly asked. So that's something to make note of, but if you just think about it, it makes sense. And the more familiar you are with this, the easier those kind of things are going to be able to spot. So as we were saying, that your maxillary teeth occlude with the distal marginal ridge of the same named tooth. As you can tell, when we get to our molars, that's not going to just be the case because our molars have more than one cusp. So the mesial cusp of our maxillary teeth are always going to hit the central fossa of our mandibular teeth, as well as it'll still hit the distal marginal ridge of the same named tooth and the mesial marginal ridge of the tooth next to it. And likewise, our mandibular teeth, the first cusp is going to contact the distal portion of the tooth in front of it and the mesial portion of the same named tooth. So kind of pay attention to that, and then the distal portion is going to contact the central fossa of the teeth, of the same named tooth. So that's kind of the basic rundown of where everything contacts. So if a teacher asked you on a test which tooth does number 14 occlude with, you would have to say tooth number 19's central fossa, and tooth number 19's distal marginal ridge, and tooth number 18's mesial marginal ridge. So that's kind of like what you'd see in a test question. You just have the tooth numbers and you have to piece it together and to be able to kind of visualize it. But once you see the patterns, once you work through this, it'll get a lot easier. And yeah, so it just takes a little bit of practice. Another thing to take note of is that when you're looking at the mouth, since there are 4 cusps on our molars, the buccal side, the buccal cusps of our molars do not occlude with the mandibular teeth. Likewise, if you looked into the mouth, the lingual portion, the lingual cusps of our mandibular teeth do not occlude with the maxillary teeth. Those are non-functional cusps. So remember, for maxillary teeth, the lingual cusps are the one that occlude, and for mandibular teeth, the buccal cusps are the ones that occlude. And that is another thing that they might try and trick you by asking which cusp, or which, like tooth number 14, where will the mesial buccal cusp occlude with the same named tooth. And it won't, because they actually don't come in contact with each other. Sorry, that was like hard to get out, but so just kind of to practice with, help visualize the teeth, go through the picket fence, be able to draw it out and explain where all the teeth go. This is some basic occlusion. Hopefully that should help you. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to go over, or if you have any questions. And always, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.